There was someone in the fire lookout tower. Back in 2018, I took a summer job as a fire lookout in northern Montana. If you don't know what that is, you basically spend months alone in a tower deep in the wilderness watching for smoke. No towns nearby. No neighbors. No cell service. Just endless forest in every direction. At first, it sounded peaceful. Honestly, I wanted the isolation. I'd just gone through a bad breakup, dropped out of college, and needed money. The Forest Service paid well enough, and I figured a few months alone might clear my head. The tower sat on top of a mountain nearly 50 miles from the nearest paved road. The only way up was an old dirt trail barely wide enough for my truck. The ranger who drove me up there gave me one strange warning before leaving. He pointed toward the woods below the tower and said, "If you hear knocking at night, don't answer it." Then he laughed like it was a joke. But his face never changed. The first 2 weeks were normal. Quiet. Boring mostly. I read books, scanned the horizon with binoculars, logged weather reports. At night, the forest became unbelievably dark. No city glow. No headlights. Just blackness stretching forever. That's the thing nobody tells you about true wilderness. It doesn't feel empty. It feels occupied, like something is always watching from beyond the trees. Still, I slept fine. Until the knocking started. It happened around 2 a.m. 3 slow knocks against the tower supports below me.
Clang, clang, clang.
I sat upright in bed immediately. At first I thought it was an animal, maybe a branch hitting the wood. Then it happened again. 3 deliberate knocks. From directly underneath the tower. I grabbed my flashlight and looked out the window. Nothing. Just darkness and swaying trees far below. Eventually the knocking stopped. I convinced myself it was wind and went back to sleep. The next night it happened again. 3 knocks. Exactly at 2 a.m. This time, I turned on the floodlight mounted outside the tower. The beams swept across the stairs and platform below. Empty. But as the light moved across the trees, I caught movement. Something slipping behind a trunk. Too tall to be a deer. I radioed the ranger station the next morning and asked if anyone else was hiking in the area. The ranger went quiet for a second. Then he asked, "You didn't answer the knocking, did you?" I laughed nervously and said no.
He told me to keep it that way.
Then he changed the subject immediately. That night, I locked the trapdoor to the tower before bed. Just in case. At exactly 2 a.m., the knocking returned. But this time, it came from the stairs. Slow footsteps creaked upward through the darkness. One step at a time. The tower swayed slightly with each movement. My chest tightened. Nobody should have been out there. Not at that hour. Not that far from civilization. The footsteps stopped right beneath the trapdoor. Silence. Then a man's voice called softly. "Ranger Station sent me up." I froze. Something about the voice felt wrong. Not the sound itself. The rhythm. Like someone pretending to talk normally. I didn't answer. The voice came again. "Open the hatch." I slowly moved toward the window and looked down. At first, I saw nothing. Then the figure stepped into the moonlight. And my stomach dropped. The man standing below the tower was smiling too hard. I know that sounds stupid, but it's true. The smile was stretched unnaturally wide across his face. And he wasn't blinking. Not once. He just stood there staring directly at the tower window. Smiling. Then he spoke again. Except this time, his mouth didn't move. The voice still came from below. "Let me in." I backed away from the window immediately. The tower creaked softly. Then came another sound. Knocking. Not below me anymore. Behind me. 3 knocks against the inside wall of the tower. I spun around so fast I nearly fell. The room was empty, but the knocking came again. From the closet near the bunk.
Clang, clang, clang.
The closet door slowly began to open. I grabbed the emergency flare gun from the desk and aimed it at the darkness inside. At first I saw nothing. Then something moved, not stepping out, unfolding, like it had been bent into a shape too small for its body. Long pale arms emerged first. Then a head tilted sideways unnaturally far. Its face looked almost human except for the eyes. Completely black. No whites. No pupils. Just blackness. And that same enormous smile. The thing whispered. You looked down. I fired the flare directly into the closet. The explosion lit the tower bright red. The creature shrieked, a sound so loud and unnatural it rattled the windows. Then it dropped backward into the darkness. I ran. I threw open the trapdoor and sprinted down the stairs 2 at a time. Halfway down, I looked toward the ground below. The smiling man was gone. But something massive moved between the trees surrounding the tower.
Keeping pace with me.
I jumped the last 6 steps and ran for the truck parked nearby. The forest erupted with sounds behind me. Branches snapping. Heavy footsteps. And somewhere in the darkness, laughter. Not human laughter. A broken imitation of it. I barely got the truck started before something slammed against the side hard enough to dent the door. I drove down that mountain faster than I thought possible. At sunrise, I reached the ranger station shaking so badly I could barely speak. When I finally explained what happened, the old ranger just stared at me silently. Then he asked one question. Did it smile before it came inside? I nodded. The ranger looked away and muttered, Damn. Apparently, 3 other fire lookouts had disappeared from that tower over the last 20 years. All during night shifts. All after reporting knocking sounds. The tower was dismantled 2 months later. Burned down completely. But sometimes late at night, I still wake up hearing 3 slow knocks somewhere inside my house. And every single time, I find muddy footprints outside my bedroom door.